Yeah.
Yeah, so hey, that's really it. You know, they a lot of people, and that's it. That's why it says in the word, man. The Lord said it shall be as the time of Noah, where basically everyone will be eating and giving it, eating and drinking and giving in marriage, and then Noah went up into the ark. So it's gonna look like this shit can go on forever, but guess what? That's why it's gonna come as a thief in the night to those that are looking for it. Because if you see what's going, if you can see what's going on right now, it's like a controlled demolition of society. Everything's being taken out bit by bit, you know, strategically, whereas it's incrementally happening. So where, you know, you just, it's like the frog in the hot water, basically. You know, slowly boiling before you realize, yeah, it's too late. It's dead. It's been boiled to perfection. So that's the same thing that's gonna happen in society. Because a key example, this is why a lot of people with the whole C19, all right? The reason why people take it so seriously is because they didn't see it from its infancy. They're not really privy to the way it really took off. So when the propaganda came from the news mill, they just ran with it up. Oh my God, this is terrifying. The news wouldn't talk about it, wouldn't do this. They would have shut down this and that and other. But if you knew about it from the other side of the earth, you would have knew like, man, this ain't nothing. What are they talking about, man? This has happened how many times before? How many times have you heard of an outbreak? There was the Ebola outbreak they spoke of about 5-6 years ago, bird flu, and there was different occasions where these things took place. But guess what? Being privy to it, you know it, you've seen it time and time again.
Well, now they said there's a new bird flu going around in China, which means, you know, look forward to it in 6 months.
That's really it. Even with these different variants, a lot of people are really stupid, man, because a lot of the stuff is coming from the fact that you took the vaccine, all right? You took the vaccine. I mean, this ain't everything, you know, this is like a observation. A lot of people are taking the vaccine, and now all the symptoms that are coming for the so-called new viruses is basically from the mutation of you taking the vaccine and it mixing with it progressing even further. Whereas you find people that haven't been vaccinated, and they maybe have caught COVID, their antibodies are much better than the people that took it. So you got a lot of people not privy to these things, right? And that's because they don't watch it. They don't pay attention to the little, you know, nuances that this man drops, man. That's why do you think that in the government, they're like over in Washington DC, they're exempt from taking the vaccine? Why do you think over in what's the other group? Even in the House of Parliament, they're exempt from certain things as well, man? Because they know it's for you, bro. You are the serfs, the peons. We're gonna do something else, but you're gonna follow everything we say. So that's why, hey, that's why you got people protesting right now, because they can see from the BS. They're the few number of people, but guess what? The type of people they're dealing with in society, no one's gonna take them seriously.
Start taking numbers. Kind of funny. Second, Second Ezra 16 and 17. Woe is me. Who will deliver me in those days? The beginnings of sorrows, great mourning. The beginning of famine, great death.
Yeah, this is Ezra speaking about that. And we even go into the book of Revelation when you have John writing down the visions that he saw from the Heavenly Father. In Revelation 8 and 13, it says, he wrote down, woe, 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 which basically denotes what? 3 world wars. Alright? And even when you deal with a book, the Bible, it tells you in Ezekiel, the 2nd chapter, that inside the book was written lamentations, woes, and lamentations, woes, and mourning. Alright? So this book is all about the time of destruction and judgment. Alright? And we're in the midst of it right now. That's why these things are happening. You have the ability to switch that off, to turn off reality. But that's for the now, for the moment. But it's going to come a time when you're going to be confronted with it. Because it tells you in the book of Jeremiah 15, 16, that there's different forms of death appointed to people. So the Lord's going to get you when it's kind of like final destination. When it's your time to go, the Lord's going to come and bring his judgment upon you. Right? And there's no one, this is the time has come to trial, as it tells you in the book of Revelation, the 3rd chapter, the hour of temptation to tempt everyone upon the earth. There ain't no one exempt, even us speaking about it. Why are we speaking about it? Because it tells us who wrote it. He said, man, knowing terrors of the Lord, we persuade men. So we understand that these things are going to happen. So we speak of it in hopes that we may be delivered for the things to come. But everyone's going to have to deal with it.
The beginnings of wars and the powers shall stand in fear. The beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? And that's a smart question to be asking. What are you going to do? And that's the thing. It's like whenever you run a business, the government basically makes you do a risk assessment, which is basically you're meant to go through your company, go through your your business, and look at all the different ways of which people can be at risk, and then have set things up in a way to mitigate risk, or have plans for if that gets followed through. So it's like if you have someone doing heavy lifting, you need to have a way to make it so that people get minimal amount of injuries and they're fucking their knees and their back up and whatnot. And there's a reasonable way for them to move all the stuff around. These, when Esau says it, then that becomes a part of government protocol. That becomes something that's just accepted. But then when the Heavenly Father says it, what are you going to do? That risk assessment. People don't really want to deal with it. People don't want to think about, what if, this present rulership, this present system comes to an end? What if I go to Tesco and there's no food on the shelf? What if the power gets cut and I need some water? You obviously just go to the ocean, boil the ocean, drink it.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know how to make fresh water. They don't understand things like that because they have to farm it. And you know what? It's kind of funny because I'm sure I'm meditating on this. I'm sure I asked this question to my parents: where does water come from? How does? I'm not even sure. That's irrelevant. When I asked when I was a kid. But the reality is like, couldn't tell you how the water comes from the taps. They don't know the process of water purification, all that type. They wouldn't even know in the ancient world how would you get water. But we had to go to certain places and dig for water. Like there's springs under the ground where fresh water is drawn out. And even with where you can't find those springs under the earth, what you gotta do to generate, they wouldn't know how you make fresh water or distilled water, should I say. They wouldn't know things like that. Alright? And even now, that's why the government spoke about, in America and the UK as well, they spoke about the winter of discontent, the dark winter. Alright? Why are they saying that? Because they're priming you for things to come. Alright? They're saying it so much that it becomes normalized that you don't even fret it. And then when these blackouts happen, you don't think, why is this happening? You just think like, nah, this is something they said is gonna happen anyway. So let's just, go with the flow and do whatever they say. As opposed to, being kind of like self-reliant, right? But they don't understand that there's a need to be self-reliant because they depend on it so much. And really, honestly, why would you have to depend on it? He's always taking care of you. There's been a couple slip-ups here and there. That's how people look at it. But in reality, you don't understand that this man has no good intentions at all, even for his own.
I was going to say, as far as the water thing, it's a good example of the lack of knowledge, especially in modern times when Esau took over, is the cholera outbreak. Because the cholera outbreak was basically just people putting waste in the water supply. And that's because, it's funny as well, because in the ancient world, there were protocols of how people dealt with war to mitigate these kinds of issues. Because as far as it's like what the reason why it was breaking out in like London and whatnot was because man were just putting like the
They ain't got no fucking self-hygiene, man.
the waste like upstream from where they're getting the water supply. So they're getting a contaminated water.
And this sorry, go on. Getting robbed. And this is guys, you got more?
Yeah.
You got go.
Thingy. And that's why the way they were dealing, and that's the thing is, this is something that's very, very easy to fix. It's a matter of how you treat the water. But then it was there, and this is the thing, and it was in London, which was one of the most developed and sophisticated places on the earth at the time. But then what? It's something as simple as being able to make sure, one of the key things you need to survive water was in a form that you can drink with no issues.
Let's get it right. He's okay with London. They know how to deal with them already in place.
Yeah. It's basically that. He was trying to maneuver like he's come with some supreme wisdom. And that's the thing, it's the same thing with the Dust Bowl. Like for generations, you had crop rotation. Man knew crop rotation. Man knew leaving the land Sabbath, leaving the land to basically restore and draw the nutrients further down in the earth. These things were known and were dared to. Then they were just like, oh well, we could kill the thing. And they did so, then what happened? You had the Dust Bowl where the soil just lost all form of binding and became completely unusable. And then there was a stupendous famine that came off the back of that. And that's the thing.
Esau's a fool, man.
That so-called, wisdom, in some ways, yeah. But then that's the thing is like even with now Esau's got what they call pesticides, got fertilizers, artificial fertilizers and whatnot, all these different chemical aids to basically circumvent something that can be dealt with through natural means. I'll continue on the second Ezra. I had a bit more on second Ezra 16. It says what? Verse 19. Behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment. But for all these things they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges. Behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth, that they shall think themselves to be in good case, and even then shall evils grow upon the earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. Yeah, the signs basically, which is what things that are seen as curses, things that are seen as disasters. The current times, these things are basically signs sent from the Lord to be like, hey, look, what the way you're conducting yourself, you might want to have to check it, man. You might want to go back and look at it and see if that's going to work out in the long term. Because as far as a lot of things that have basically been implemented within society, over the long term, that shit doesn't make no sense. Like as far as it's like the dream of of everyone being able to basically live, and everything's going to be fine and things are going to continue as they are, despite the fact that the world is being ground to dust. It's basically being weakened through being overtaxed. These things, but people say, oh, climate change, blah blah blah. But then men are coming with solutions like, don't eat meat, eat fly burgers, eat shit burgers, eat human body part burgers. Like, why is everything other than meat being put into that fucking burger, man? That's why these are really means by which to push further wickedness, man. Because people aren't being, like, Esau's not being mindful. It's about how the elites conduct themselves. They're the ones who set pace. No one else is really, like, out here just coming out with completely new things. The most you had was when the internet was made. That was made in the military first. Then afterwards you had it go out there and you had certain services produced on there, like social media, Google, YouTube, these things that were made. But then through the process of time they just bought them up and basically integrated them as part of the system. But it says what for many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy.
Hey, that's why even right now they're talking about, what's another word for famine? Food shortage. Right now they're talking about the lack of patience with drivers, right, the limited supply of stores. Why, what's that? That's basically the word. You may say, oh, that ain't not true in the Bible. That's just basically messed up. You know, everything that's written inside the word in terms of prophecies comes to pass. So you just saying it's a coincidence. By chance.
It's like where you get some food from, what you gonna eat.
Yeah.
Because okay, let's say it's just a coincidence. What you gonna eat, dog? We're on an island, bro. How much food is? Go to the supermarket, go Tesco, see how many products are made in Britain. You don't see the British lying on too many things, mate.
And then even if you do say, well, there's a few, well, a lot of due to the fact of the Brexit, a lot of the workers that used to be fundamental with the food productions in the UK, they ain't here no more, right? And they ain't no one that's rushing to go and do their jobs. Why? Because the food is so, the money's so low. They don't want to go and work and do something like that for that amount of pay. So the reason why, that's another reason to throw into the mix of why there's going to be food shortages. So when you look at it on every, perspective and kind of angle, you understand that, look, it's, hey, hard times are coming.
Funny as well, you got people in costume because tomorrow's the Samhain.
Yeah,
Halloween. So yeah, as it's known. And it's funny as well because I don't remember where. Oh, it was on Instagram. Someone posting about like Halloween, Christians celebrating Halloween and whatnot.
Oh, right. Probably saw a story as well.
I can't remember. Yeah, probably one. But what these that's the thing is, as far as people view it now, it's just a cultural thing. It's just like, oh, these are just things that are celebrated.
Just get dressed and
Have fun, have a party. Enjoy
You don't know
yourself.
that you actually put an energy into the universe. Like a good example is the TV show American Gods. That TV show basically showed you what it means to empower a god, an idol, and to make it, to give you clarity of what I'm saying. Because you had the Vikings, for example. They would try and experiment with different idols to see what they should sacrifice before it to get power. Then they killed a man and gave the blood. Then they said, okay, now we're going to have a blood sacrifice to the idol when we gain power. So that's the same thing. Then you had the modern day, you had the technology, you had the gun, you had the different things. And what gave that power? The use of those things. For example, the gun, when the bullets were made, they shot them in it. I can't remember how it went verbatim, but they shot the bullets and then, they empowered that idol. So it's the same thing. The more energy you're giving off this whole world, this whole universe, everything that operates within the fundamentals of this earth, the third and fourth dimension is dealing with energy, kinetic, bio, chemical, all this is energy being translated from one place to another. Like for example, you're a blue-collar worker, you translate your physical labor into what? Monetary gains. And you can do that's done in today's manner by doing what? You get money in your bank account, or it's done in the old world by you doing manual labor to bring about crops in the earth so you can actually eat. Alright, so it's all a conversion of energy. And it's the same with these so-called idols, right? Or with these idols, should I say, these so-called gods. When you're dressing up and you're going out trick or treating, it's basically it's giving energy to demonic forces upon the earth.
Yeah, because if it's just if it's just a celebration, just a party, why not do it at a different time of the year?
Why not? They'll say, nah, it's not right because it has to be on that day.
Yeah. Same for Christmas, the same energy.
You can't put up a Christmas tree in the middle of summer. Yeah.
Put a Christmas tree up in June, and then people will be like, "Yo, you're bugging."
Energy's off.
But that's the thing, and that's why these things are there too. That's why these things are practices in the modern day, because it's about what people getting the same vibes, man. Now, and that's why it's this the one coming up now, Samhain, on coming up tomorrow. It's funny because it's promoted on children heavily, and it's like people really get into it, like globally as well.
Yeah, Jake over here in the UK is driving. With that generation where, your parents told you ain't celebrating that day. Trick or treat, you ain't doing that. But now you got Jake, they're throwing their own parties, they're doing, that's all the rage. And really they're taking off the Judah over in the States. They're doing, it's like Instagram is opening channels for everything being bi-coastal. I don't know if that's actually, transatlantic. It's going from one side to the other. Alright? But they're basically feeding into a wicked energy that was never part of their culture before. They would have said, oh, that's judge. Why are you doing that? That's obvious.
Well, that's the thing as well. These things are now getting pushed, man. Because I was looking on Twitter and it was like, looking through some artwork people were doing, and they just had like just a black woman witch just like stirring the coal. And that's the vibe. You got, especially other women in general, the left-hand side has been getting promoted heavily. The witchcraft, the star signs, all these different things, women are putting all form of power and energy into it. And especially Jake women. That's why they'll do certain things and get certain returns, and then they're going to go full force into it.
That's why they missing the crystals heavy, man. You got the carpentry wood, wood that they burn. Sort of took my tongue off that one. Not sandalwood, sandalwood, wood from Gad. They burn it. It's basically a derivative of frankincense. One of the two. So basically, that's why they utilize the crystal and all that type of stuff. Why? They're trying to tap into certain energy, which have powers, but it's in what name are you doing it in? Right? If you ain't doing it in the name of Yahweh, Bar Shem Shai, Bar Shem Al-Qaddas, you're doing it in the form of witchcraft. Alright, let me read this precept. It's the book of Isaiah 47 and 12. Stand now in thine enchantments, and with them the multitude of thy sorceries, wherein thou hast labored from thy youth. If so, thou shalt be able to profit. If so, thou mayest prevail. Thou art weary in the multitude of thy counsel. Let now the astrologers and stargazers, the monthly prognosticators, stand up and save thee from these things that shall come upon you. Now what you have happening is you have the elites, right, on the left-hand side, they're basically doing what? They're basically utilizing all forms of witchcraft to get one up on, in hopes of maintaining their power, alright? And this is why you have now a good example to really show you what's going on is Eve in the garden, alright? Esau is basically presenting, it's like that old serpent, alright? He's basically coming forward and presenting a choice, an option to the people, saying, yo, if you do this, then you become as a god. And that's why people are adhering to these different things. In the pursuit of money, the so-called pursuit of happiness. Now it's become a trend within the last decade that everyone meditates. Everyone's into personal development. Everyone's into this. Like, everyone's turned into a walking brand name, alright? But under the same guise of basically what? lovers of them own selves, self-worship, all that type of stuff. And that's part of Esau, playing into being a deceiver, right? Deceiving the masses of the people and basically making them do what? Go after those things and walk in line with his spirit, basically. But that's part of the enchantments of the left-hand side, to do what? There to his followers and walk away from the Heavenly Father, right?
So 2nd Ezra 16.
That's our one more. It's the book of 2 Corinthians 2:11. These Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. And this is really, all of these things you mentioned are really like, there are different tidbits of everything that's put into the mixing bowl of this man's devices, but it's only going to be put into one ubiquitous technology known as the what? The MOTB, the RFID chip, right? Which is that MOTB mentioned over in the book of Revelation with Rush, right? And that's basically where people are going to say, you know what, I'm down with this. I'm going to follow after it. You have all these different money people, and they basically saying, well, you did this, so why don't you do that? You did, it should be mandated. One silly individual saying that it should be mandated for everyone to give blood. Come on, man. So what happened to, you just had the big explosion of the feminist movement talking about my body, my choice. Now there ain't no choice. Well, they can choose who they have sex with, but for an individual to decide what they do with their body, whether they want to put some alien concoction, substance, that's what I'm going to say, substance into your body is a big hero. But if they want to have sex with, if they don't want to have a baby, they're allowed to choice. This shows you that when you really put things under a scope, you have a critical mindset, you can see how retarded this shit is, man. But the reality is a lot of common sense ain't common. And a lot of people are really fucking stupid. That's the reality, man. They're actually fucking retarded. Like, it's that bad, man. Because if you say something to some people, they'll be like, well, I never thought about that. Because really, the reality is they're sat in front of their TV all the time, or they're sorting out some form of entertainment to escape from the walls of their weekly life. But us, that's why Paul said in the book of Corinthians, right, that we're not ignorant of Satan's devices. Because this is all part of his device, right? Psychology, right? Chemical, germ warfare, chemical warfare. All these are all arms of the sword that the Heavenly Father blessed him with, being the left-hand side of the Heavenly Father.
Matthew 6:19. Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. That's similar to putting energy into those idols. People in the modern day, they really like where they're heaping their treasure. They're trying to do it within themselves now. They're really trying to become like gods on earth, man. They really want to be able to have all control and dictate what their destiny is. And these things, and that's like, thing is all the kind of guru shit, all these different, meditating on all these different methodologies that have been promoted mainly through like social media through the last few years. These things are about, getting people into that mindset of utilizing various forms of witchcraft to make these things happen. And it's basically puts you in a mindset where you're fully invested. All you're thinking about is gaining on this plane. And that's really what the vast majority of people are in the mindset of. They're thinking like, they're meditating like, okay, they're thinking, okay, I want to get, what they've got their, 5-year, 10-year, 15-year plans for what they want to gain within their life, what they're looking to build up, how they're looking to make shit happen. Because why? They're basically just, all as far as for them, this plane is where it's at. And that's a big part of the mindset of the elites. And Wisdom of Solomon too. The elites are basically looking at things like, hey, this is it, this is the last run. We basically need to get as much pleasure and satisfaction and joy out of our vessel before it expires. And that's why you'll see them doing the utmost to continue to keep going on. They're trying to stay alive as long as possible. And then on top of that as well, they're just looking to attain as much bliss and good times as they can whilst they're here. And that's the same mindset that's been passed on to the people. They might be you might have someone where they're just kind of doing all right. They got their place, they got their car, they got whatever. Where it's cool, they're kind of set. They can handle their family. They might just be thinking like, oh, I want to, they're still dreaming about getting a Lambo, dreaming about, going out to certain parts of the country and just balling out of their minds. They're basically going to be dreaming of a certain kind of lifestyle and trying to do the utmost to get to it.
And that's why you have social media kind of being a catalyst to that. Because social media is basically giving people a perspective, or an insight, should I say, into how the other half live. Right? So now they're chasing after it. They can, with the monetary gurus, they can give them like a little plan of how to become a millionaire or enter into the middle class and have 2 holidays a year, a city break every other month, that type of stuff. And also with the explosion of cheap holidays. The sign that's been around for a long time. Guess what? It's now been open to Jake over there in the UK, especially like London, metropolitan, lifestyles, London, Birmingham, Manchester, Bristol, hotspots where Jake are at. They're basically being exposed to what? To Jake going on holiday, going here and there, and other guys to different places, different eateries, different things of that nature. And they're basically saying, you know what, now's the time to do this, man. They're even more invested. That's why the whole thing of getting the passport, the Maxine passport, it's light work to them. Because it's like, oh, finally I got my shit together. I can enjoy it. I can participate in society. But it's a banana and tailpipe, man. It's to reel you in. This is basically the end of this shit. This kingdom is on its way. It's way out, man. Right? If you peel back if you peer behind the curtain, what you're actually gonna find is that the monetary system isn't sustainable. Right? It's a debt-based monetary system. In order for you to have money thriving, it's based on debt. For something to be a plus, it has to be a negative. That lets you know that can't continue forever, right?
Verse 22, the light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. But if thine eye be evil, thy whole body shall be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in thee be darkness, how great is that darkness? No man can serve 2 masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to one and despise the other. You cannot serve the Most High and Mammon. And that's, Mammon is a heavy power in this current time, man. That affluence, that wealth, that luxurious lifestyle, demon. People have that on them heavy, especially in these metropolitan areas. Because when you go out into the countryside and to the sticks, it's less of a thing. But that's why here you'll have the culture of where people they'll get their paycheck. They're looking to blaze out like a fat portion of their paycheck just to basically live that lifestyle that they're dreaming of.
So much.
and get the pictures for social media to post for the rest of the month. But then these things, it's like you do it, but in the long term, you know, what's it availing you? What's it gaining you? Because the people even in those spaces, what kind of spirits are on them? They're in the mindset of all that worship of the self, all filling themselves with pleasures, which seems great at the time, but then over time it's like, where do you end up? And that's the thing.
You know what I was looking into, you probably know, I just really kind of know him, heard of him, Ernest Hemingway. He's an author guy back in like the early 1900s, born like 1899 or something like that. And basically that guy, you know, it's like with all the middle and upper class. It looks good because they have access to, you know, resources and things of that nature. But the reality is they don't understand the meaning of life. That's a fundamental thing. When you actually understand the meaning of life, that gives you some respite. Whereas they, you know, they search for it within like many devices upon earth. And what they find is death. Like he's an example that he was meant to be, you know, have great writing skills and whatnot. The guy ended up, you know, losing himself, blowing his brains out. Why? With all the things before him to entertain himself and enjoy it. Why did he have such a crazy ending, man? Because, you know, he really ain't got it like that. Right? They don't understand. And that's what Jake is, that's what a lot of people in the world is after. They're trying to find some form of respite for this world. The reality is that, hey, the only respite is going to be the kingdom of heaven for the children of Israel. The reason why death came into the earth was because of sin. So even with that lets you know the fact that he died shows you that this is a place of disease, right? And that's why James, I believe it's James or Jude, or even both, or Peter, I can't remember which epistle it was. They spoke of what? The chains of darkness, right? They spoke, I believe it's in 2 places, but they spoke of basically the body being known as the chains of darkness, right? Because why? Paul went into it. He said, this is a man in the book of Philippians, the 3rd chapter said, as touching the law is blameless. But he said, that which I ought to do, I do not, but that which I ought not to do, I do. Saying that basically the body was geared towards wickedness. Going back to the time of Genesis where, you know, the Lord, the Heavenly Father spoke of it and then brought down the lifespan of man. This is what we're dealing with. These bodies are geared towards wickedness. And that's why all these people on the earth, they basically suffer. Some, you know, aside from Israel, they're more at home doing this wickedness, but they don't understand these things such as cancer, disease, and all this flu and all that shit. It comes from sin.
It's like people will be chain smoking for like 30 years on end as well. People are bugged out, man. Like people do all kinds of madness, and then just persist in it, like knowing it's destroying them. Because why? It's the demon, man. You defeat it. 2 Timothy, you got that? 2 Timothy 3:1. This know also that in the last days perilous times shall come. For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unfaithful, unholy. And that's even just that verse alone, like the sheer volume, and those things have definitely been fulfilled. But like the way people are moving now, even among Jake, especially among Jacob, especially the Jake youth, they're in that scorpion spirit, man. They're them stinging scorpions, man, bringing nothing but death and destruction in their wake. That's why it's funny what the music them men are producing over here. That drill is just that scorpion, man, that stinging tail.
I explained from Chicago. The word Chicago goes, it means pungent smell. Basically, it means like a place like it's got a very bad smell, like rotten. And what's over there in Chicago? aside from the brothers in the faith, it's rotten, man. It's the carcass of Jake. And that's been exported over to where? To the UK, right? London, mainly, being the forefront of it, UK drill, which is now boomeranged over to New York, man. The sound, should I say, the beats. But it's the same, it's all, why is it going in that course? Why is it moving in that course? Because Jake, under the curses, was all doing the same thing. All killing each other, drilling,
Without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good. Yeah, that's another big thing. It's even, let alone you, even if you're just doing righteousness and keeping it to yourselves, people are gonna be like, yo, why are you doing that? Yeah, why are you moving like that? You holding yourself to a certain standard. People will take issue with it.
Yo, even if you tell someone, they'll be like, what, you ain't doing that. You ain't strong.
Yeah.
Says you can't eat pork. I know you. Nigga, I'm not like you, man. I'm not eating that shit. The smell of it makes me want to vomit.
It's funny as hell. It's like those are some of the easiest to keep.
Yeah.
Because as far as it's like, you have the means to research it ahead of time so easily. It's like you can even just go for like vegetarian options all day long anyway. Like it's light work in most places. But then that's why it's a matter of where your treasure is. That's where your heart is. And that's just like if these things, because like now it's a normal. It's like even if I go somewhere and buy a burger, I'm always gonna double check to make sure there's no foul
tongue hanging out.
Yeah. Same for it's like when you purchase things, you're gonna check the ingredients. These things just become a normal. I feel like growing a beard. It's like that's the thing. That, like now it's in vogue. I remember when man first came in, it was not in vogue for a good little while. Like having a beard, it was like people are just shave it. Always every time, just shave. Why people shave it? And then like now it's everyone's got the most luxurious beard oils being sold at every corner. Like it's actually hilarious. Traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of the Most High. And that's funny as well, because traitors, it's like, what does it say? The love of many shall wax cold in Matthew 24. And that's definitely happened. People don't really deal with each other in a certain kind of way. That's why this whole what's it called, like reality TV industry built around people's relationships and how they'll just backstab and like lie and be complete and total demons to one another. That's basically that's been industrialized a lot of times. But that's why I say there's things like Love Island or whatever. All these different shows will be the guy that gives you a boy who's trying to fuck your girl, or your girl that's meant to be yours, she's going around just being the town bike. Being the town bike behind your back. Town bicycle is actually the term. But that's what it's, because now it's everyone is basically loving themselves, man. And as far as for the Most High, now we're in a place where Esau's pushed out the saying what God is dead, and then it's like what? So then instead, every man's meant to be a god unto themselves. That's essentially what follows from that state of mind. To where then you go into the teachings of the wickedest man on the planet, man. What's his name? Alistair Crowley. Crowley, whichever it was. This guy just said, fucking hell, that shit dropped out of my head. What was his thing? It was,
do as thou wilt.
Yeah, do as thou wilt, that's the one. I think about this guy's surname pronunciation. Do as thou wilt. Do as thou wilt spirit, that's been pushed out heavily. That's what everyone is. Because why? Just roll God unto yourself. You then basically set whatever you desire to do. And that leads to what? Confusion and mess. Which is why it said, what? The city of confusion. Now confusion is out, in full force. Because it's at the point where it's like a 3-year-old is going to say something which makes no sense in the bounds of reality, but then everyone around is going to clap and give validation to it.
And that's why they came out this week and they said basically they're introducing gender neutral passports. This shows this madness is just going to continue. It's a race to the bottom, man. This madness is going to continue on the face of the earth until the Lord makes his return. Because you are a male or female. There's no two ways about it, man. All that neutralization of gender is retarded, right? It doesn't make no fucking sense.
It's really just like a completely minuscule amount of people on the planet that are afflicted with that demon. But then it's being pushed out and promoted by those who can push agendas.
I always think about it, it's like there's like a handful of weirdos that have basically got like
less than 0.5% of the world's population.
Probably less than that.
Yeah, less than half of
Probably like 5% or some shit. You know, like within those hotspots of like,
they
just have
Otherwise, it's like
for the majority, everyone's just, they probably say it's funny because one thing when I was watching that there was one guy was talking about how he lived. He said, on the theatre, and he must have said something. Why have you got to listen